All right, my name is Terry Helm, and I was in the Peace Corps in 1979 through 1981. My country was Thailand, and I had never traveled like that, and to be exposed for 2 solid years to this incredible culture. And I think what saddened me, though, when I was over there was that our culture seemed to be coming in and infringing more on them. And there were villages that were extremely remote, that were still in the jungles, that when I was doing my supervisory work, my second year, my boss and I would take a 4-wheel drive vehicle to go back to visit these villages and to talk with the teachers and work with the students, because a lot of those kids had never seen an American. So that was hugely exciting to me, but the sad part of that was that I was seeing the bulldozers coming in to build roads, because we need to have roads, you know. And it was a very difficult time for me to put that all together, because progress is progress. But those people had lived beautiful lives in a beautiful way for many, many years, without roads, without TV, without electricity, without all of the things that we consider to be progress. Whereas Bangkok was there a long time ago, and it's one of the most polluted cities in the world, and it's very crowded and very dirty, and the air quality is horrible. So, and then you go up country and see these nice villages that are just perfect, you know. It was really hard to bring those things together. I was told before I went, oh, you'll suffer culture shock, you know. Well, yeah, eating really hot food and trying to learn how to stand on a squat toilet was culture shock. But coming back home was more culture shock. I remember, well, I tried to decompress myself, so instead of just coming straight home at the end of my 2 years, I took a month off and stayed in England and just played tourist, and I had friends there, so it gave me time to readjust to people being taller than I am and people speaking English and the hustle and bustle. But when I finally came home and had to become an American again, I walked into my first grocery store experience. It took me 3 hours to do my normal grocery shopping, because I wasn't used to miles of shelves. All I wanted was 1 box of cereal, and I was standing there looking at things I hadn't even heard of before, you know, cereals, and just the sheer abundance that we have that we so take for granted, which is not in other countries. It was a simpler life, it was a quieter life. It was very, very pleasant for 2 years, and coming home and having to readjust to noise and busyness and choices and all of the technology. And that was the other thing that hurt. I was gone 2 years. I didn't know all of the latest music. I didn't know all of the latest actors and actresses in movies, and language changes. Our language changes shortly. I mean, it's like boom, 2 years I was gone, and new words that come into our vocabulary that I didn't even relate to. And so that was an interesting piece of culture shock that I don't think most people consider when they choose to do something like this. So that was a real eye-opener for me. I learned when I was there that it was okay to be alone. And I know that sounds probably obvious, but before I went to Thailand, I didn't think it was okay to be alone. I had somewhere ingrained in my head that on Friday night, if I didn't have a date, there was something wrong with me. If I didn't have a man in my life, there was something wrong with me. If I wasn't surrounded by people, then I was going to be bored. So it was huge to be there and to be alone. And I remember my father actually saying to me one time when I was in college, he said, my wish for you is that you would wake up some morning in a strange place all by yourself. And it happened. And when it did, I mean, when they sent me to Pitsanalok, I was by myself. There was nobody else in my group. Yes, it was huge for me to suddenly realize that I could be by myself and enjoy my own company, because there were long, long, long hours in the evening when it was just me, without a TV, without a radio, without music, just me. Oh, I got off the train, and my name is Terry, which can be either male or female. I get off the train, it was probably 9 o'clock at night, and I'm looking for my greeting committee, because 2 administrators from my school were supposed to meet me there and take me to my house. And I stood on the platform for a really long time, and there was a group of men standing at the other end of the platform, and all these people got off the train, and I'm waiting, 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 and they kept talking and looking at me and talking and looking at me. And finally one of the men came over, and in very, very stilted English, he says, "Is your name Terry?" I said, "Yes, it is." And he looks over at the other guys and, oh no. They thought I was going to be a man, so they had planned this whole evening of entertainment for me. We were going to go to the bar, and we were going to go to the other houses, and we were going to smoke cigarettes and cigars and drink and have a good time. And they had set me up to share a house with a man. And so they did a lot of regrouping very quickly. But I did end up having to spend the first week sharing a house with a man, which was very my support, but he was very proper. So until they were able to move me into the correct house, it was, that's my room and that's your room. And it was really cute to see all of that transpire. Just the slowness of the lifestyle then, and I'm sure it's not that way now. But it was then. It was very peaceful, and one of their favorite expressions is "my pinray." My pinray, it doesn't matter, don't worry about it. And I think as soon as I got off the plane, when I came home, I started feeling like, oh, you know, have to do it this way, it has to be done now, blah, blah, blah. And then in my little head I'd hear, "My pinray, my pinray, who cares, doesn't matter." That was an incredible lesson, and it's one I need to remember on a daily basis, because it's very easy to forget that one in our hustle and bustle daily life. Shocked me, though, was the discipline, because students were disciplined for things that I would never even think about. And it was done in front of the entire school every morning, because every morning, everyone, all 2,000 or 3,000 of us were out in front of with the flag, and it was very somber. You raised the flag, you sang the anthem, and after that was done, then the punishment was delivered. And of course, these kids were all in uniforms. The girls wore navy blue skirts that came down almost to their ankles, and white blouses, very proper, of course. And the boys wore shorts, navy blue shorts, and the white shirts. But if you did something wrong, and it could be as simple as speaking out loud and not raising your hand, you got so many whips with the cane. And they would call the kids out by their names and get them in a long line in front of the whole group, and whap, 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 down the line they would go. And you got so many, depending on what your offense was. If you got smoking, or got caught smoking in back of the schoolyard, you got 10 whaps. But there was no suspension or expulsion. I mean, those kids were expected to be in the classroom that day, no doubt about it, but you got whapped. And I can't think of anything more humiliating than having that done to you in front of your peers and all of your teachers. But, you know, the discipline problems were nothing like what we dealt with here. And to see those kids getting punished that way was a real shock. It was a hard one. And to stand there as an American and bite my tongue and not say, "We don't do it that way." Who cares? You know, they didn't care that we don't do it that way. That's the way they did it. That wasn't my job. It was hard.
That's another thing that I've heard about the corporal punishment.
It was a really difficult thing to keep my mouth shut. But like I said, that wasn't my job, and that's part of the training, is that you will see things that you may not like, that rub you the wrong way, but it's not your job. You can quietly work behind the scenes maybe to change that. But, you know, who's to say that we're right and they're wrong? So that was the other thing that I had to work on. And, you know, like I said, the woman who chose not to learn how to speak Thai was sent home right away because she was making judgments. And if they're not Christian, they're pagans, and we don't want to teach them, you know. We need to preach to them. Go home.
Isn't it something our whole culture has moved in that direction now?
Oh, yeah.
If we're right, and if you don't think so, then something's wrong with you.
Right, right. And so I think that the mission of Peace Corps should be kept alive, that especially now, because we are giving that image to the rest of the world, and we can't. We can't keep friends if we're going to act like that. We're the bullies in the schoolyard, and it's not working. So that makes my heart sad, but